First off, what is assistive technology? Assistive technology is anything that helps a student with a disability. So if you had a broken leg, you would obviously use a wheelchair, and that would be considered assistive technology because that's helping you with your disability. There are three types of assistive technology. There's high technology, low technology, and no technology. A no technology device is one that is not electronic at all. Doesn't require batteries, doesn't require an outlet, nothing. An example of this is a homemade communication board, such as this one. And communication boards usually, or they need to apply to a student's interest. So this one, candy, which I find most kids are interested in. I put like 8 different types of candy, so they could point to I like and then point to Sour Patch, or I don't like and point to Tootsie Rolls. And then there's also ones that are stories, so Goldilocks and the Three Bears is one, so you can tell a story with a child who might not be able to talk, so they will, point to the sequence of events, and you can point to Goldilocks or whatever, and then the event. So this is just one example of assistive technology. You could also put I want or I don't want, basically whatever type of conversation you're trying to have with a student who has a speech or language disorder. Next type is low technology, and these are electronic, but they don't require computer software, so they might require batteries, but they don't need a plug to go into the computer to download everything. An example of this would be tape recorder, because it only needs batteries, and you just play it right back, don't need to do anything else. And then high technology is, it utilizes complex multifunction technology and usually includes a computer and its associated software. So an example would be First Words, and this usually helps not only kids with speech and language disorders, but it also helps someone who's just had a stroke and has lost maybe all of their speech skills, and it helps them redevelop the sounds and the basic words. So it'll talk to you, so you can hear how you pronounce the word and the sounds that go with it. And then another one, which is definitely more current and not used just for speech and language disorders, is the iPad. And they have many different applications on the iPad. Some are free, some you have to pay a little bit more money for. And they'll either talk to you or you can write it, and just different ways to give a student to communicate with the people around them. However, today the internet does not work, so I cannot get an application, so that's why you need to have devices that do not require technology like this. So you can still communicate, but just always have a backup with you, because you never know when a battery is going to die, when software is not going to work. Some benefits of assistive technology: it not only helps a student communicate with others, but it also helps other people communicate with the students, so the family, the teachers, peers around them. And in addition to that, it also helps students become more academically successful. There are different things that people need to keep in mind if they're going to implement assistive technology. First, it needs to be included in the student's IEP, which is their individual education program, but it's not legally binding, unlike the IEP, which is. It also needs to state who's going to implement it, where they're going to implement it, and how they're going to implement it. So are they going to put it in the general education classroom, or are they going to use it in the special ed resources room? That all needs to be included, and if the therapist is going to use it, the teacher is going to use it. It needs to be very specific so that they know exactly, what to follow and how to do that. And this is because, or contributes to the assistive technology implementation plan, because in the past, students with special needs have been taken advantage of, or they just decide, oh, well, that's too hard to incorporate, so we're just going to leave that out totally. So they've decided that everything needs to be included. And then determining if assistive technology is beneficial, one of the main ways is through testing. So usually this would occur in the general education classroom. So early in the day, in the morning, before lunch, whenever, they'd give the student the test without using the assistive technology. And then after lunch, later in the day, they'd give them the test again, but give them the opportunity to use assistive technology. Because of this, they could compare both tests and see, well, did they score higher on the one with assistive technology, or lower, or the same? And if it's the same, then you don't need the assistive technology, which goes back to why it's not legally binding in an IEP. And then how I decided to test if other people agreed with the research is I decided to do an online survey through SurveyMonkey, and I typed up 6 questions, and then I emailed the link out to general education teachers, special education teachers, and a speech and language pathologist, all of whom I've either shadowed or observed with. And then after I periodically checked it and saw that most of my responses were in, I analyzed the results through SurveyMonkey, which compiled all the yes or no answers. And they were all yes or no questions because I figured that would be easiest for people to respond to in a timely manner and remember to do it because they can just do it right then and there. And after I got the results, I made conclusions based on the opinions of the different professionals that I surveyed. First off, in my first question, I asked them what they most closely identify with, so the special education teacher, the general education teacher, or the speech and language pathologist. And then I asked if they had ever used assistive technology. Most of them did, and then I asked if they had ever used it for a child with speech and language disability, and if they thought it was beneficial for the student, for the teachers, making it more easy for the student to communicate with the teacher, and then the student to also more easily communicate with their family and peers. And then my results, I was very lucky with this because I had a snowball effect. Whereas I only intended to survey 5 people, but then the speech and language pathologist that I sent the link to emailed me back and asked me if I wanted her to forward it out to her other speech and language friends and teachers in the school. So my survey snowballed from 5 participants to 19, so I got very lucky with that. But most of the responses did come from general education teachers, and overall everyone thought that assistive technology was not only beneficial to the student, but beneficial to the teachers, family, and peers. And then what does this mean? I concluded from my research and the professionals and everything that assistive technology is beneficial, not only in the classroom, but at home, in the special education resource room, or in the general education classroom, and everybody can use it. I think it's user-friendly to pretty much everyone because it's, you don't even have to use a computer. You could draw pictures or cut out pictures from a magazine. So because there's so many different forms, everybody can find a type that's beneficial and user-friendly. Tape recorder, pretty user-friendly. An iPad might be, for some, a little more sophisticated, but I think that they're pretty easy to find out. But because of this, everybody can basically find a type of technology that's beneficial and helpful. And the participants in my survey, all 19 of them, came to the same conclusion that assistive technology is beneficial to students and the peers around them. And then because of this, because it's so beneficial, schools should have readily available the assistive technology to help the student. And if they don't have the assistive technology, they should have the resources or someone they can call to ask to bring in the assistive technology if it is needed and it does help the student become more academically successful.
Nice.